What happens when you swap out the stock Iron 1200 bars for the stock Iron 883 bars? Let's find out. Alright everybody, what is up? As always, thanks for stopping by to another video today. As you can see, we are taking a look at my 2019 Harley Davidson Iron 1200 Sportster. And if you guys have been tuning in for a little while, you can obviously notice something a little bit different on my Iron 1200 that we are going to go over today. So that's right, as you can see, we have swapped out the bars here. We've got the old stock mini apes that come on this bike. We have swapped these out for stock Iron 883 bars now. And so what exactly does that mean for us at this time? Well, we're going to go over that today. We're going to go over why we switched these out, what it's going to be like riding with this different bar and different riding position. We're going to hop on the bike here in just a little minute. I'll give you a first impressions kind of what that experience is like going to these smaller, shorter bars from the stock 12-inch mini apes here, but we will also talk a little bit about some of the plans for the Sportster moving forward. So this is kind of the first step in what I wanted to do and kind of transform this bike into a little bit more of a bobber style Sportster. So I know I talked about it a while ago when I got my 2022 Street Bob. I've started really kind of using that bike more on a daily basis, my longer trips, weekend trips, things like that. Really kind of just want to do a little work to the Sportster now to turn it into a little bit of a different bike, since I'm not going to be doing much longer distance cruising with this thing. We're going to strip it down a little bit, turn it into like a bobber style Sportster, and really dropping these bars down was the first step to that. So I had been planning on doing this for a while. I finally found a good deal on some stock 883 bars on Facebook Marketplace, pulled the trigger on them, and finally got these installed on the bike. And so of course, if you guys have done any bar swaps on your Sportsters out there, let me know what you guys did, what bars you went with, how you liked them, any different changes and stuff like that you've made. I'd be curious to see what other options people have gone with out there on their Sportsters, older Sportsters, 883 Irons, 1200s, things like that. And let me know what you think of this new swap here. So as you can see, quite a bit lower than those stock mini apes. So it really is going to drop down the hands, drop down the shoulders, tighten up the riding position. Like I said, we're going to get to that in just a minute here. But as you can see, definitely a bigger rise with these old stock bars. With the stock 883 bars, we're looking at maybe like a 2-inch, 2.5-inch, 2-inch rise here, still 1-inch diameter on the bar, so pretty similar, just a lot tighter and a lot smaller of a rise on that bar. So like I said, the plans for this really is to kind of go with a little bit more of a bobber style aesthetic, and the first piece of that for me was really kind of dropping the bars down. We don't need to be up higher anymore. We're going to drop them down, get a lot closer and tighter to the bike with these stock 883 style bars. So here we'll give you a little bit of a wider view of the bike. Again, obviously they're down a lot lower. In my opinion, gives it a little bit of a kind of cleaner, more sportier style look here with those lower bars. Kind of tightens everything up. Now, one of the big questions I know everybody's going to be asking, where the Memphis Shades cafe fairing is. So I have it off for now. The mounting hardware is still here till I decide what I want to do with it. But if we're going with that kind of bobber stripped down look, most likely going to keep that cafe style fairing off of the bike for now. That Memphis Shades cafe fairing that I've had on the bike here forever, took it off. I think we're going to strip it down, clean up the front end. So some of the next steps to this bobber progression, obviously we're going to have to clean up the headlight area here. The stock Iron 1200 headlight housing comes with this big nut in here that held that stock speed screen. So we're going to have to clean this up. We're going to get some new hardware to clean that piece up here and just make it look nicer without this large nut right here. Keeping in line with the front of the bike here, I think what we're going to do, we're going to remove the stock front fender. Probably just put like a fork brace in here, completely remove that fender, give it kind of that bobber look with no fender up front. On the front tire, I think what we will also do is we're going to do a wire tuck here. We're going to clean up a lot of these wires, clean out a lot of this plastic to kind of get that gap. We'll do the coil and ignition relocation over on the other side to kind of clean that up and strip out the middle right here. Next up, I think what we'll do is I kind of want to do a wrapping of the header pipes here. That's if I don't get new pipes totally. I might just get like some Vance & Hines 2-2 short shots, or I might get that style pipe that kind of comes out of the header and straight down to the ground. Let me know what you guys think of that. If you have any recommendations on what a good bobber style exhaust would be. And then coming to the back, maybe we will switch out the seat to like a bare bones style solo seat possibly here. Probably leave the sissy bar here. I did remove my Viking bags swing arm bag over here. I'll probably get a new battery cover over here. That bag really kind of scratched this up over the past 5 years since I've had this bike. But that's just a lot of the stuff on the top of my mind right now when we think about transforming this bike into more of a bobber style Sportster. So if you guys have any recommendations on stuff you would recommend to turn this thing into a bobber, any products out there, any aftermarket pieces you think I should throw on here or strip off of the bike to get that bobber look, drop it down in the comments and let me know. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to hop on with these new bars, get our first impressions, take this thing for a test ride, see how these new bars handle, any differences, anything I like, anything I don't like about these new bars, give you guys a little bit of insight to that experience. All right, so we are now on the bike, getting some of our first impressions, first experiences with the new bars. One of the first things I gotta address right off the bat is you will see my check engine light is on. And that is because when I was messing around with this, I got everything all back on, tightened back up. I was messing around with the brake lights because the brake light was staying on. I was messing around with the housing and the switches and stuff, turning the lights on and off, and it completely killed and drained the battery. So, and I'm talking like completely drained the battery. I had no security light blinking. I'm hitting the ignition switch and I'm getting no electric, no nothing. So then by the time I go ahead, I get it jump started, it was totally completely drained. It took me a while to get it jump started back up. Then once it came back on, I had the check engine light. Ended up running through some of the codes and stuff on the dash here. A lot of it was like low voltage type codes, all that different stuff. So I'm probably gonna have to look into it a little bit more if it does not go away, but I'm hoping it clears itself once the whole system, you know, we get it back up and running, back up real charged up and everything like that. But we'll see if that becomes a bigger issue. It's running totally fine, but I don't know, we'll see if any of those codes really matter here. But like I said, wanted to hop on here, get some of our first impressions with these new lower bars. What better place to do that than some of the twists and turns of Kelly Drive out here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So right off the bat, getting on this thing, really the very first thing that I'm going to notice, of course, not rocket science here, but definitely just a lot lower and hunched over to the bike than with those higher stock bars. So of course, being lower, you're going to find yourself in a little bit of a more hunched over position. I can already tell if you're on this thing for longer periods of time with these bars, your back, upper back, lower back, probably going to get worn out a little bit from this hunched over riding position. Next thing that I'm noticing here is a pretty big difference with how close my hands are together. So with those stock bars, my hands were always kind of like up and higher and out to the side a little bit more. You can definitely notice these are a little more narrow, so you're going to be in a little bit tighter with your grip and the positioning of your hands, which in my opinion seems to make for a little bit better handling. If you can just get yourself overall more and more tight to the bike itself, seems to just kind of handle a little better. You got a little bit more control as opposed to being like up high with your arms, up high and outside or something like that. Next thing I'm noticing, big difference with the mirror positioning. So with the stock bars of the Iron 1200, of course, your housings with the mirrors are up a little bit higher. They were up above basically my shoulders. I had a really good, nice view to see to the side and to behind me, but now dropping these things down a little bit lower, I'm just kind of looking right into my shoulder. If I choose to keep them on or flip them, I don't know, we'll see what happens with that, but I'm gonna have to do a lot more turning of the head, checking the blind spot and things like that with these lower mirrors. They're almost, I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can get them adjusted a little differently, but I want to see how the mirrors go. Can't really see much out of them. I'm just kind of looking right into my shoulder. So as far as the handling, I touched on that just a little bit ago. I think bringing your hands in a little bit closer, dropping your overall riding position down a little bit tighter to the tank, it's kind of weird. I got to get used to it, that's for sure, but it seems to help with the handling a little bit. But in the same sense, it makes you kind of have to work a little bit harder, I'm feeling, through some of the turns and things like that. Before, with the higher handlebars, it felt like a little bit more like leverage working in your favor, just kind of a light, simple, like push or pull, lean into wherever you're going. With these being a little bit lower, I feel like you got to kind of be a little bit more aggressive with how you push and pull and turn and lean right into the corners here. I don't know if that makes any sense the way I'm describing it out there. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have any experience with going from like a higher bar to a lower bar, what that experience has been like for you. Definitely feeling a pretty big difference in the comfort aspect here. Like I said, with those higher up bars, your arms are a little bit more relaxed. I feel like I'm pushing down into the grips a little bit harder in this position. Like I said, with this kind of folded over position, it gives you a little bit more downward pressure into these handlebars and into your wrists. Definitely something to consider when picking out bars of any size for any bike, really. Also too, dropping these bars down, I would say, gives you like a little bit more of a feel of like a hooligan riding position. You're just down here a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more tighter. You're not as relaxed up here like with your big 8-hanger cruiser bars. Just kind of gives a little bit more of that kind of like bobber hooligan aesthetic, little bobber hooligan feel, hunched over like this. Alrighty guys, just wanted to pull over, give you one last look at the new bar setup. Again, stock 883 bars on my Iron 1200. So we've got a lot of work to do on the up front here. Again, we need to clean up this headlight area. Also, I know some people are probably going to call me out for the wires. These are the stock cables and wires as well. So since we had those higher bars, these had to be longer. So didn't quite perfectly adjust. I think we'll probably get those cleaned up eventually here. We're going to want to have a little bit nicer setup up here for our clean bobber look. So of course, make sure you guys stay tuned if you want to kind of see a little bit of a transformation of this bike. Like I mentioned, we're going to pull some stuff off. We're going to add some stuff, a little bit of features here and there, turn this thing into a bobber. If you have any recommendations of what we should do to get this thing bobbed out, drop them down in the comments. Any certain parts, any certain things that you think we should do to the bike here to give it that bobber look and feel, drop them down in the comments. But of course, that'll go ahead and get this one wrapped up for now. If you have any questions on the bars or anything in general that I did not cover about this swap, how it looks or feels, make sure you drop it down in the comments. Let me know. I will be sure to address that. But always make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on some of the bobber work that we will have going on to the bike here. As always, make sure you go ahead and like this video. We will catch you on the next one, guys. Make it a good one. It's the Moto John. We'll see you all on down the road. Peace.